Raven-Symone has finally spoken out about the loss of Malcom Jamal Warner, and what she revealed is truly heartbreaking. Their bond traces all the way back to the 1990s. Raven had some emotional words to share regarding Malcolm's death, and let's just say, not everything is adding up. Rumors are swirling that Malcolm might have been the target of a setup. The details surrounding his tragic death aren't making sense to a lot of people. Some sources suggest that there's a possible conspiracy tied to his passing, and the full story hasn't been told. So, what's Raven's take on all this? Who would want Malcolm gone, and for what reason? Let's get into it. Raven-Symone's reaction to the tragedy doesn't come as a shock considering their long history. They first crossed paths in the late 80s while working on The Cosby Show and remained close friends afterward. Reports say Raven was devastated by the sudden news of his passing. She took to Instagram to honor him, sharing a deeply emotional audio clip that captured her grief and love. Her heartfelt tribute has moved fans, adding another layer to the mystery surrounding Malcolm's death.
Words cannot describe the pain and sadness and surprise that I feel with the recent loss of MJW. He was the big brother. He was a beacon. He was one of the most multifaceted, talented men. So gentle. And my heart and soul and hugs and kisses go out to his daughter and his wife and his mother. He gave the best advice. He gave the best hugs, and his smile will always be a huge, bright, white smile in my head forever. I love you, and I know you're watching over all of us now. Bye, Malcolm.
I remember what the floor looked like. It was blue and it had those round raised things. I guess I was so close. And in the hallway walking to the Cosby Show studio was pictures of all of us.
Fans are casting doubt on the official story, believing something critical is being left out, something authorities might not be telling us. Witnesses on the beach reportedly tried to help when they saw he was struggling, but sadly, their efforts weren't enough. By the time Costa Rica's Red Cross made it to the scene, Malcolm was unresponsive, and his death was confirmed shortly after. What's causing serious concern is how little coverage or noise there's been around this tragedy, especially considering how public the beach is. Pia Cocles isn't some remote, hidden coastline. It's a busy hotspot full of tourists and locals nearly every day. That's what's making people question everything. No images, no footage, barely any first-hand stories. It just doesn't sit right. Of course, recording someone's final moments is a major moral line to cross. Ideally, people would put down their phones in a moment like that. But let's be honest, social media isn't known for its discretion, especially when a celebrity's involved. Whether for clicks, shock value, or sheer habit, someone usually captures something. Think of all the disturbing footage we've seen, rappers like Nipsey Hussle and Takeoff tragically documented during their final moments. Yet somehow, Malcolm's drowning is the exception. No videos. No posts. Nothing. For a place as crowded as Pia Cocles, that kind of digital silence feels unnatural and unsettling. Fans who loved Malcolm are finding it hard to believe this was just a terrible accident. What makes it even more questionable is the issue of lifeguard presence. People want to know how such a well-frequented beach had no safety personnel on site. The Caribbean Guard blamed staffing shortages, but that doesn't make sense, especially since the area is known to be risky. If this beach has had a reputation for strong currents for years, why wasn't it being properly watched? Then, right after Malcolm's passing made headlines, authorities suddenly claimed they'd be reallocating resources to Pia Cocles and another similarly dangerous beach. That kind of quick pivot? It screams damage control. Add to that the conflicting reports about what happened that day, and it's no surprise the internet is raising red flags. There's confusion about how long Malcolm was actually in the water, who really stepped in to help, and when emergency crews actually got there. The story keeps changing. And if this was just a straightforward drowning incident, why is it so hard to get clear facts? Why are there so many inconsistencies and gaps in the timeline? What's especially suspicious is how scripted some of the so-called eyewitnesses sound. Their stories feel oddly polished, like they were told exactly what to say. Initially, officials said Malcolm drowned while trying to rescue his daughter. A spokesperson for the country's investigative unit shared that Malcolm was first seen playing at the shoreline with her, then later returned to the water with a friend. That's when the current pulled them in. The friend survived. Malcolm didn't. But then the chief of the tourist police offered a very different version. According to him, Malcolm's family, including his daughter, wasn't even there when the incident happened. He said they interviewed his relatives, and none of them were present at the scene. Now we're looking at two conflicting narratives. One says he was a hero trying to save his child. The other says she wasn't even there. And despite the contradiction, the investigative agency is still doubling down on its original version. Daily Mail reached out for clarification, and officials repeated their initial story, that Malcolm's daughter was on the shoreline. Meanwhile, there are separate claims that a surfer used his board to bring her back to safety, while a volunteer lifeguard pulled Malcolm and another man out of the ocean. It's chaos. Every version of events is slightly different, and no one can seem to agree on the basic facts. At some point, you have to question whether any of the accounts are genuine. Fans are even speculating that Malcolm was silenced, because he may have known too much. That he was planning to expose some powerful people who didn't want their secrets revealed. See, Malcolm was never one to stay quiet when it came to uncomfortable truths. He spoke openly about how The Cosby Show was wiped from networks after Bill Cosby's conviction. But at the same time, films by directors like Woody Allen and Roman Polanski were still being aired with no backlash. He pointed out the glaring double standard, how black men's legacies get erased, while white men are somehow separated from their misdeeds. That kind of honesty? It made him a problem for the people who benefit from silence. And Malcolm didn't stop there. He took it a step further, calling out high-ranking white executives in Hollywood. He claimed they were intentionally creating tension within the black community, not just passively allowing it, but actively pushing conflict. He believed they were stirring drama between influential black men for profit and engagement. Take the
Kendrick versus Drake feud, for instance. Malcolm didn't see it as two artists battling. He saw it as a trap. Orchestrated. Meant to amplify division, ego, and violence, all while the people behind the scenes cashed in. In his final podcast episode, fans noticed something unusual. There was a quiet urgency in his voice, as if he had something heavy on his heart. He spoke about how the media dehumanizes black men, boxing them in, labeling them, and pushing them to breaking points. What really hit people, though, was when he seemed to suggest he was on the verge of exposing something huge. He didn't scream it. He didn't even say it directly. But his tone? It felt like a warning, like he knew his time might be limited. In that same podcast, he said,
Community is not a monolith. There's so many levels and lanes to the black community, and we wanted to have a space where we could acknowledge, discuss all of those lanes, because they're so varied in terms of our perspectives and our opinions and our ways of life, and we wanted to be able to have a place where we can talk about all of those things, discuss all of those things,
It's no wonder fans think something darker happened. The silence. The timeline issues. The contradicting witness accounts. The lack of footage. The rushed official statements. It's all just too strange. So, what do you think really happened to Malcom Jamal Warner?
You said he was a mentor to you.
Sound
I
off
knew
in the
Bill
comments,
very well.
and then
Interviewed him
stick
many
around for
times,
what we're
spent a
about
lot
to
of time
uncover
with him.
next.